Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. For those of you who are new, I am Retro Afro Abroad. I am a single mom who is talking about her journey from moving from the Midwest, United States, to northern Spain. Today I want to talk about my journey on learning Spanish. Right now I am on a very weak A2 level, so I am a high beginner. And when I knew I was moving to Spain, I was told to not really bother learning Spanish because I wouldn't be using it. So I would forget everything I learned in the months ahead. That I might as well wait for my immersion process to practice and to learn. Well, I ran into a couple of hiccups. First being, I don't look Spanish. So without looking Spanish, I find that the number of people that will engage with me in Spanish reduces. They think I'm French. Most of them think I'm actually a French African living in France. And they try to speak to me in French, then realize I speak English, then move to English. So many times I am not engaged in Spanish just because they are trying to make me feel comfortable. Second thing is I work in English. We talk in English, even though most of my coworkers are Spanish. So that's another place that I do not spend the majority of my time practicing and listening to Spanish. The third thing was in the first year, I did not do audible immersion, meaning my TV, my radio. I did mostly English with a little bit of Spanish. And what I realize now is I should have flipped that. I should have had almost no English so that I get used to hearing Spanish instead of waiting and making my immersion process longer. Fourth thing is situational awareness. So there are some nuances that I think people who are quicker to learn languages get that I don't. So I feel that has also hampered it just a little bit. The last one that's really surprising is energy. No one tells you how much energy it just takes you to move and to exist in a place that is not necessarily your home. So there is an energy where I have to be ready when I go to the supermarket in case someone talks to me. I have to be emotionally ready to try and put on my listening ears and situational awareness with meeting people or going places. And that takes so much energy that I did not have in reserve being a mom. So many times I'm just fried. I am not in the prime position for my brain to absorb a new language. I did start a couple of free classes in the city center to try and learn. They were not very good, mostly because when they think of beginner Spanish, they think of people who know a few sentences, not someone who does not even know what the word hola means. So I needed basic stuff, and they were already 2 levels above me. I withdrew from that, did a couple of Duolingo classes. Actually, I liked Pimsleur a lot. Maybe because I had to speak more and I could follow an accent. So I did Pimsleur, probably the 2 levels of it. And that really helped with vocabulary, simple sentences. Then I could go back to the beginner classes. Another thing I wanted to do, and I think it's important, is if possible, if you have the money, to do classes where the student count is less than 5. The reason is because I needed to stop the teacher frequently. And if it was a big class, it would be too disruptive to ask questions. And also when it was time to read and practice speaking, I was able to do that. I had a turn. So I would say find a class that emphasizes speaking Spanish as part of its curriculum, because the speaking part, the listening first, and then the speaking part is usually the most difficult because it requires you to hear, then find it in your head, organize, and then speak out. And you speak a language, you know the language. But one of my biggest breakthroughs, the first one was going to that Spanish class where speaking was encouraged, reading aloud was encouraged, so that I could get the accent going at least. That helped and that broke a little bit. And then I was able to open my mouth and start asking for basic things, what I call restaurant Spanish. How much is this? Where can I find that? How do I get to this? 4 or 5 phrases, phrase questions, phrase words. The second thing that really, really broke me out of my uncomfortableness was a holiday that I spent in my boyfriend's village. He's from a city not far from Madrid, and he was having like a kind of get together with a lot of his college and high school friends. So that was about 10 couples. Out of the 10, maybe one wife could speak English. The rest could not communicate in English at all. And it's a nice combination of where you see people. I was really nervous to meet them because I'm a foreigner, I'm Black, I don't know. And they were so welcoming and so nice. So meeting people who are so kind. And then the ladies kind of like gathered around me and, would ask a few questions. They knew I didn't speak Spanish, so they slowed down for me. And I could see them coming towards me. So that really encouraged my desire to try and go towards them, even if it was uncomfortable, because I saw how much they were trying. And I know I sounded like Tarzan. Me, woomy, how you go. Like, I know it was horrible, but I started having conversation with them. It was fun. It was 3 days of just talking casually to people at breakfasts, lunch, dinners. That really made me more comfortable with speaking bad Spanish. So that's where I am right now. I get the wrong tenses. So I say I are or you am kind of verbs, but I wouldn't say being forced to, but having a strong desire to want to really was my key. And now I look for opportunities with my boyfriend's family, with his friends to talk because I don't expect judgment from them. Actually, I see a lot of appreciation from them where I try to speak. And also I want to. So it's just a good forward momentum thing going there. Unlearning. I know I have to take another intensive class, probably some class where I do Monday to 4 times a week, 5 times a week of constant 2 to 3 hours of Spanish. That really does help like cram things into my head. And then after a month of that, chilling for 2 months to practice what I learned and to rest, and then going back again. The next thing I need to do is also all my TV, all my stuff needs to be in Spanish and speaking to my son in only Spanish. Even if it means pulling up Google Translate and speaking off of that, that still does something for my head. So just the comfort of speaking and remembering words helps in learning. So I hope some of that is helpful. I'm just telling you my experience with it because I didn't see that piece. I didn't see the lived experience, the part of how much talking at work matters in how well you'll speak, how much energy you're going to expend moving to a new country. So factor that in how fast you'll speak. I'm 2 years in and I'm still at an A2. I feel people who are language savvy, especially people who I know already speak another language, so they're bilingual already, they get to A2 probably in a year or 2. I haven't had to learn a new language since I was like 15. For me, that makes me a little rusty. So it's taking me 2 years. Plus, as I told you, I'm not practicing. And then people who are really, really slow or divergent or have other issues going on, I would say it's hitting more on the 3-year mark. So that is all I have for today. Thank you so much for listening. And if you have any more questions, please put in the comments below and please subscribe so that you can get more of my content. Thanks so much. Bye.